Good evening. My name is Shanna Hopkins, and I'm the Alumni Director here at StfX. I would like to welcome you to our first X Connects live video podcast. This evening, we have over 240 students, staff, faculty, alumni, donors, and parents joining us from all over the world. It is a well-known fact that St. Francis Xavier University has Canada's strongest alumni network. Our family bond is like no other. That is because we stay connected. For years, our alumni have been giving back to the university, and tonight is no exception. We are so excited to have our very own Nancy Regan from the class of 1988 with us this evening. Nancy is a longtime television journalist whose interviewing skills were forged at the helm of CTV's Live at 5, a program she co-anchored for over 15 years, interviewing many exciting guests such as Oprah Winfrey. Nancy is now the successful host of a podcast, The Soul Booth, where she has meaningful conversations with esteemed guests, such as Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. It is my absolute honor to welcome our host for this evening's conversation, Ms. Nancy Regan.
This is funny, I sort of come out from behind the curtain, but it's a digital curtain. Thanks, Shanna, so much. And hi to everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of this evening. This has been a strange 5 months, 6 months, a strange time of disconnection. And I love the fact that the podcast that we are launching tonight is all about connection, and particularly connecting the people within our StfX community. Because for anyone who's been to X or had maybe there are parents as well on here today, and donors, people who've generously supported StfX, anyone who knows really anything about StfX knows that it's got a beating heart, and it is so much about the people. And that's why, I'll give you the background, I got a couple of emails when Dr. Hakin was first arriving at StfX, first that he was coming and who he was, and I read his CV and so on. And I fired off an email to Murray Kite one day to say, Murray, you know what? It would be great if you would have either I could interview him or have someone else, doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be me, and just allow us all to see the personality and the human behind the CV. So that's what tonight is about. They took me up on it, and I get to be involved, and I'm just delighted to be here. And I really just want you to get to know Dr. Andy Hakin, and I'm going to introduce him right now. And I bet a lot of you, he's out from behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz.
Here I am. Hello, Nancy.
Thank you. You've got an X in the background. I've just got one on my pinky finger because I've gained the COVID-19 pounds. So it fit on this finger. I also have, I've been cutting my own hair since March, Dr. Hakin. So
looking good, looking good.
I promise next time I'll be more prepared for you. You are an absolute lifer in education.
I am, yes.
And I'm so anxious to talk to you about your background and about why StfX, but I think first we've got to talk about that big fat elephant in the room. And here you are arriving in a new, big, beautiful position, exciting challenge in the time of COVID.
Yeah.
And I think you got the job just about when the world stopped, isn't that right?
That is absolutely right. Listen, there's a massive literature on what a presidential transition should look like. Well, we should just tear that up and throw it away, because this is not it. This is not it, you know? And so we come in unusual times, but there's a phrase that I use that I really like. You don't get to pick the pitch, you turn up the play. And that's what we're doing. We're here to play, and we're going to make this work for our community. It's not easy. No one would have thought this would happen.
I love that expression. And, you know, I have a background, as Shanna said, I have a background in television news. And at some point in my early career, I got an education in what makes a great news anchor. And it's not someone who can just sit behind the desk and read. It's really in times of crisis. I remember watching Steve Murphy, who people in the region will know as the anchor now still of CTV Atlantic, when Swiss Air crashed, when the Swiss Air 111 crashed. And I watched him. I was actually in New York City. And strangely, I had just tuned in to see the results of the US Open tennis tournament. And there he was, and three main channels in New York were carrying him because he was, you know, it was just unfolding and he had very little information, but he was holding it together. And I thought, thank God it's not me. But I also was really schooled in what it takes to lead in crisis. And that's when a leader is really proving his or her mettle. So we're so thrilled to have you. I'll tell you the adjectives that are being thrown around when I ask people about you. I heard charming, friendly, kind, caring, warm, visionary, a natural leader, great human being, and it goes on and on. So you're really getting wonderful reviews.
Thank you, and it's all very embarrassing to hear that being said to you. I'll just say that. Humility may be one of them as well.
Actually, humility was. I just couldn't go on. I have a long list here. Would you like me to call you Dr. Hakin or Andy?
No one knows me as Dr. Hakin. Well, maybe that some family members back in the UK might, but to everyone else, I'm Andy.
Well, that says everything to me, and I think you'll really fit in well at StfX. Given that, I know the students will love you. If your ratings on Rate My Prof are any indication, you're going to be popular.
Yeah, you know, you can't read too much into that. It's that has been with me a long time. Did I enjoy teaching? Absolutely. Absolutely loved it. But those ratings, I'm not so sure. Please don't go and check those out, people. Just let them sit there.
Talk about an elephant in the room. Now everyone is going to be encouraged to. No, take it from me. They're fabulous. And what I gleaned from them is that you are a brilliant educator, but also someone who is really hands-on and willing to get down in the mud and help the students. And that's so important.
Well, yeah, you know, I got into this in an unusual way. I was the first ever in my family to go to university, and it was a really remarkable experience. I could never have imagined what a university would do for me. It changed my life. And all I want for everybody else is that opportunity. That's what drives me, right? It's a very, very simple concept. You know, that you can absolutely change your direction through an education and find your own path. That is absolutely remarkable. And do I love my job as an educator? Yes, I do. It's all about human interaction, right? That's why we do this. I mean, every year when students start to come back to campus, it's like, yes, that's why we do this, right? The campus comes to life, young people, full of infectious ideas. It's absolutely wonderful, right? And that's what we thrive off. And that interaction is what makes a place like X absolutely special, right? I mean, so am I dedicated to education? Yes, in every way, shape, form. That's what I am. That's what I know.
So was there someone in your early life? It's intriguing to know that you were the first in your family to go to university. Was there someone in your very early life who inspired you? Was it family, teacher?
It's, you know, I had some very good teachers when I was in high school. And I had one in particular who I will call Mr. Watson, because I would never, ever use his Christian name, and still wouldn't if I were to meet him. Mr. Watson was my chemistry teacher. And there's a reason I took chemistry, right? This fellow knew his subject. And to a young high school student, the man absolutely walked on water. He was incredible. But you know, the other thing about education for me was that no one said to me, you can't do it. And you know, my parents, they didn't understand the path I wanted to take. They had no idea what this meant. I mean, but to them, it wasn't a case of, oh, I don't think so. It was, well, go explore, see what you can do. And, you know, it was the best gift I could ever have had. Fabulous.
it strikes me, it's interesting that you have a chemistry background, because I'm fascinated in the brain. And it seems to me that chemistry requires a very strong functioning left hemisphere, which is all about logic and numbers and so on. But I believe chemistry probably also needs the imagination and creativity that the right brain supplies. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, creativity is the essence of chemistry, right? I mean, not only are you making new compounds, you're making measurements on substances, for example, that no one could ever have done before. And you want to be, as a researcher, you want to be the first. So creativity is absolutely the name of the game. And yeah, I did have a bit of reputation of not your typical chemist, right? I did. And I'm not embarrassed about that. Chemistry, my discipline, is a lot of fun. And that people say, oh, well, yeah, I took that. It's great. And if you get someone who loves that subject, I bet I could have a lot more chemists on this planet.
That's it. Well, it's my experience was always that a good professor could make all the difference in subject matter. You could have the exact same course taught by two different educators and have a completely different experience.
Nancy, you're so right. And let me tell you, over the last about week and a half, I've been meeting with the research chairs at StfX, having video calls with them, and just learning the vocabulary of the institution, right? I mean, what are the stories behind some of our great faculty members? And let me tell you, to any new students watching tonight, wow, you're in for a journey, because they are fantastic. They've got great ideas, whether it's in sociology, whether it's in mathematics, whether it's in applied mathematics as it goes to artificial intelligence. We have some incredible researchers at X that then interface into the classroom, and you'll be not only getting excellent subject matter, you'll be getting stuff at the leading edge. And wow, that has got to be exciting, right?
That's very exciting. And it also goes so well, part and parcel, with the incredible facilities you have there now. I actually toured the Brian Mulrooney building just, I guess, before COVID. And it was incredible.
Okay. Yeah, it really is a magnificent building, and the whole of the campus speaks to a dedication to that experience of learning. The facilities, the people, it is a wonderful combination.
And so much of what makes StfX special is the chemistry of the students and the professors I think when I hear you speaking about your academic bench, as it were, your team, I see you as a quarterback. Yeah. It sounds to me like you've come up through the ranks of having been a professor, that you're going to be a very impactful quarterback for this team.
Yeah, I mean, that's my job. That's my pedigree. I come up through the ranks. I've served to become a full professor before moving into administration. And I'll say one thing, and maybe everybody doesn't agree with me, but at the heart of me, I believe that a university is about its people. That is the central strength. The people build the programs, they move it on, they sustain the university with their ideas and their questions, and then they give back to society as well with their research. It's a wonderful, wonderful combination, but it is about the peoples. The buildings support that. If you have that right, that combination is absolutely superb. And I can tell you, Nancy, from being on campus the last couple of months, we have it right. It's a great place. It is a great place to be.
Well, I can't help but think about you arriving in Antigonish, which is, one of the most friendly towns on the planet, but at a time where, friendliness has had to be curtailed because people have been shut down. Yeah. And I wonder what that experience has been like for you, for you and your wife, Linda. Yeah. You made a big leap from University of Lethbridge, and you've moved into this small town. Have you been able to feel that you're able to, put down roots and get to know people?
Nancy, you hit on saying it was really unusual. I mean, we arrived in Nova Scotia on July the 8th. July the 9th, we went straight into the house here in Antigonish, and went into complete isolation for 14 days. We lived for 31 years in Lethbridge, right, with our family. And Linda and I come here, and basically we know the end of the road, but we know very little else. And that is, that is by anyone's standards, an unusual experience, right? But now that we're out and about, I got to tell you, when I'm meeting neighbors, it is a great community. Yeah, people are worried, and I understand that, right? This is a big change. Of course, there's going to be some anxiety about students returning, because this has been a very safe and a sheltered community. But I can assure you, we're doing everything we can to maintain that safety. And the good people of Antigonish, there's a lot of people rooting for everyone to get through this together. It's a good feeling, you know, town, county, everyone beyond. We're working together to make this happen for everyone. So we're feeling at home. We're really pleased to be here. Unusual times or not, this is a special place. Antigonish reminds me of the place I grew up in England. I grew up on the northeast coast, just down from Scotland. And returning to an area where there's sea and there are seasons is really quite spectacular compared to living in an environment in which you have heat and then cold.
Well, you mentioned the ocean, but I gather that one of your favorite pastimes involves rivers.
Oh yes, yes. That little secret is out to many people. I do enjoy fly fishing. I have done that for a number of years, and I'm pleased to say that, like any proud father, my son has managed to do better than me at that, as he now works as a guide in a river system in Alberta. So it's always good to see someone do better than you. But now that I look at him, I know he's living his best life right now, and I just hope, if he's listening tonight, you've still got to go back to university, Callum.
I love it. And I believe your daughter is a teacher, is that right?
She is, yeah. Abby lives in Calgary and works in a school in Chestermere, just outside of Calgary. And she started back today, grade 1/grade 2. And my heart goes out to a big day in Alberta for a return of students.
It struck me when I heard that you were a fly fisherman. I immediately could see the movie A River Runs Through It. And it struck me that in order to enjoy that sport, you have to necessarily be patient. You have to have a spirit of perseverance. You have to be determined. There's a lot of metaphor there, I think.
Yeah, there is. And you know, Nancy, I used to use it in my kinetics lectures. Kinetics is how reactions and the speed of reactions take place. And I used to describe that if every cast from a fly line produced a fish, it would be a very boring sport. But just like many reactions in chemistry, the orientation has to be right, the energy of the fly has to be right, and they have to connect in a certain way. And when I apply that to fly fishing, it is so right. You can cast and cast, and then eventually you get it perfect. The fly drifts without any micro drift across the face of the fish. Bang, the energy happens and you have a reaction. Chemistry and everything, Nancy, it's really true.
I feel the passion you have both for fly fishing and education when you talk about that. And it also makes me think about purpose. You know, to me, it seems that education has, I think if you've stayed in the game this long and risen the way you have, it must be a bit of a calling and rooted in passion and purpose.
Well, in a sense it is. I mean, as I said, my journey is very personal, but I fundamentally believe that education is one of the noble arts. We produce society's leaders. Post-secondary education does that. And all I'll say right now is that this mission is the most critical it has been for many, many years. We've got to keep our eyes on the prize. The prize is to graduate young people who can step up and lead society. And I would say that right now, we need that more than anything else in this country. We need our young people to step up and begin to move us on. Because if we lose sight of that, we're going to lose generations. We can't afford to do that. We've got to keep going. So in a sense, it is a calling, but it's giving back. It's giving back to society at every opportunity it can. And our gift are adults that are ready to take on responsibilities and lead. I think that's a pretty important work.
Oh, no question. I think it's a crucial job, as you say, to educate those young people. But one of the things StfX does so beautifully is, along with educating students, we also graduate with a ring and a real sense of need to contribute to our communities and to our societies. And that sense of giving back and generosity of spirit. And I know that you have a past that is rooted in that as well. Can you talk about your involvement with autism?
Yeah, I can. Very happy to. A number of years ago, I was seconded onto a board called the Cine Family Foundation. And its role is essentially to help the transition of young adults with autism into the working world, if you can possibly do that. The issue, Nancy, is that, you know, we tend to think of ourselves in very linear ways. And when we look at our communities, they're not particularly neurodiverse. So the opportunities that are afforded to many, many young adults actually aren't there for many young people on the spectrum. After high school, a lot of the supports go away. Then what? Well, there is massive human potential in these young people. And the question that I was trying to address with my colleagues at the Cine Family Foundation was, how do we maximize that potential? How can we find meaningful employment? How can we find independence? How can we find resilience for these young people to let them take that next step and to have some meaningful sort of purpose and adventure in their life? And I just got the biggest thrill out of that and met some incredible people along the way. But you know, the sort of people that set that up are incredible human beings. We were so fortunate to start that off with a $100 million gift from James Seneve.
Wow.
You know, it was done because he had recognized the need within society, but also within his own family about the importance of the work. And some of the work that's being done now, we started in Alberta focus. We've gone national with some of our programs, and it has just been an absolute honor to be part of that.
Well, you know, I mentioned that I really am fascinated by the brain, and I think it's interesting that we are in a chapter of history right now where we're understanding that different people, different brains learn in different ways.
Absolutely.
And it cannot be a cookie cutter approach to education.
No.
So I love that experience, I'm sure, informs your role as president of a university as well.
It does. Brain plasticity is one of the great findings, right? We can move ourselves in different directions. And one of the most important findings is that the earlier you start with that training, that development of the brain, the more benefit you're going to give to everyone along the way. And, you know, early childhood education, for example, really, really important. It is one of the most important things we could do for society. So educators, they have my most sincere thanks for what they do with young kids. But everyone, it's known as the brain plasticity, the way one can redevelop pathways and learn new directions, learn new things. It gives us all a lot of hope. I will get that guitar playing sometime. I know I just have to get at it. I know I have to get at it.
It's funny you say that, because that was what I was saying in March. Okay, we're locking down. I'm finally going to learn how to play the guitar. Still can't.
With the calluses on the fingers. Mine are just beginning again because I've pushed myself in the last few weeks to try this again.
That's great. Is it true that being the president of a university is like herding the buffalo? You see, I've done my research.
You've done your research well, Nancy.
You'll have to explain.
Nancy's referring to the fact that I have an indigenous name. My name is Uma Kamar, and it means herding the buffalo. But my great colleague, Blackfoot colleague, Dr. Leroy Littlebear, when he awarded me the name, and I was deeply honored to receive it for the university's 50th anniversary. That's the University of Lethbridge's anniversary. He said, Andy, you know, I thought long and hard about this name, and I settled on herding the cats, but I thought herding the buffalo would be far more appropriate. And, you know, I know exactly of what he speaks.
Well, I think that I know just enough about the Indigenous communities that that is an extraordinary honor and not to be taken lightly. So I was moved when I heard that. Why StfX?
You know, there are very, very few institutions over the years that I ever had a hankering to be at. And X was one of them. Why? Some of it, I'll put it straight aside, is the geography. But it's the destination university. It's the way it connects with students. It's the reputation that it has for that connectivity. It's nearly 170 years of history, right? Those things really speak to me. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's one thing, Nancy. I think it's a combination of all those sort of little aspects that come together. But when people talk about StfX, I would instantly snap my head and go, oh, okay. And, you know, it stuck with me. I came to Nova Scotia several times. I'd never had the privilege of coming to X, but there was something about Nova Scotia that just really attracted me. And Linda's in the same boat. There's something about out east, as we would say when we were back in Alberta, that is different and attractive. And the star, the jewel in the crown for me was X. And to have this opportunity, we just feel incredibly fortunate to have it.
So the question is now, how do you want to change or evolve StfX?
I think the big one for me, Nancy, is talking about, as I've said earlier tonight, is all about the academics. Let's build on this academic sort of pieces that we have, this absolute incredible resource that we have in our academics. Let's build academic excellence. Let's have the situation of the campus, the geography of the campus, the buildings of the campus sculpted around that, and let's build something that's really, really impressive, that our graduates look at that ring and they know why others recognize them as leaders. It's the quality of their education, and people will say, wow, that's the school with the experience. That's what that means. Mm-hmm. The vision is all academic for me. That's my background. That's my passion. That's what I want to instill.
When I was working on television, I did a lot of interviews with movie stars, and in New York and LA, and just as a part of a junket. So you're in and out of the room in 5 minutes, but you get to sit down with a big star. And often they would notice my X-ring, but never more so than when I interviewed Denzel Washington, who looked at it and was like, boom. What is saying, we've got speed, we can roll cameras. And he's like, no, stop everything. What? That ring. And of course he was seeing Malcolm X. Yes. And he said, I want to buy that ring. And if you can imagine, my loyalty to the ring was so great that I said no to Denzel Washington. And for years since, I've said, why didn't I just give him the ring?
Because you understood it was an earned privilege. That is why you didn't, Nancy. It really is.
You're right. Although I did think it might be a good selling point for the university.
There you go.
Right. I think that I was still connected to that idea that you've got to graduate to get this.
You've got to graduate. That's the way. That's the way.
Okay, so I'm so excited to hear that you and Linda are settling in. Am I right that there is no homecoming this year?
You are right, yeah. But we'll look forward to those in future years, and to the whole Zavarian community out there. We will get together. As soon as we can travel out again and we can bring people back in, we'll do all those wonderful things again. They're still in the schedule. And, you know, when I look to see what I would have been doing at this time of year, it's not quite the same to be doing this from my front room, is it? You know, but I'm looking forward to meeting people, and we will have those homecomings in years to come. We will get through this, definitely.
you've probably had this sort of thing described, or you've already realized this, meeting so many people who go to StfX and work at StfX and have attended. But it's a little bit like the movie E.T. When E.T. was drained of life and the mothership came close, he perked up, his blood started pumping again. And
What a
that's
great
what it's
analogy.
like when people come home for homecoming. That weekend is really indescribable.
Yeah, you know, and I'm sensing that in the staff as well. Let me tell you, as we've been students have been arriving and going into residence over the last week or so, the energy of the staff has gone to a new level, and I can really see it. There's something special happens. That chemistry that X brings when the community starts to take life again, it is fantastic, and it's palpable. You can feel it on campus. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And Andy, are you getting out and meeting students?
I'm meeting some students. I was part of the welcome team at the front gates as parents were coming in to drop off their sons and daughters, which was absolutely wonderful, because I said to the administrative team, I said, you know, we've had our heads in plans for about 3 months. And you sometimes lose sight of what it's all about because you're just looking at risk management every day. You're looking at how you can really optimize the whole framework of bringing people back. And then when you see the students, it's just wonderful. That's it. That's what we were missing. It's the students, right? That energy and some of the experiences there. I've got to say though, Nancy, some people coming in, I admire their ambition. Coming into university, moving into residence, and coming as a family in 2 minivans filled is a little ambitious. Now, that's a heck of a tessellation problem to start things off, but I wish you well, whoever that person is, in getting all of that stuff into a room. Rather you than me.
Exactly. So you were greeting, but you weren't actually moving the stuff in. I'm glad to hear.
No. We were trying to minimize contact, so that's my excuse.
That's excellent. If you look ahead 5 years from now, Andy, what would you love to be able to look back and say about the next 5 years?
You know, what I'd be really happy about is to have some graduates that, just like you, Nancy, want to come back and celebrate their experience at X. I'd be delighted to see my academic colleagues saying, you know what? We've gone to places that we couldn't have dreamt of with our programming over the last few years. We're taking on challenges now that we couldn't have taken on 5 years ago. I'd like to see us obviously enshrine that #1 in Canada for what we are. We all know we're that. We just got to convince everybody else. That's what I want to see, Nancy.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I guess we should end off with COVID, because it is that elephant that I spoke of at the beginning.
It is indeed.
What is your hope and plan for the next 2 months? Because this is, I know you've approached it differently than a lot of universities in Canada.
Yeah.
And obviously you were part of the planning for the past number of months, which was so great. That would be terrible for you to parachute in without having been part of that plan.
That's right.
But what do you foresee in the next couple of months, ideally?
Well, we've been working so hard at it for the last few months, as you said, and I'll say to you that our game plan to bring back the majority of face-to-face learning experiences, we didn't start with that assumption. Rather, we approached and sort of worked out what we could do. What is possible was the question that we asked. And when we talked to students, the feedback that we got is that the majority wanted that face-to-face contact. They wanted that intimate experience, and that's what X is known for. So does that come as a surprise? Absolutely not. The question then becomes, can we produce a safe environment that has the majority of our classes being offered face-to-face and maintain the safety not only of the individuals on campus, but also of the community? And that's where we started to write through those plans and worked very, very closely with public health, who've reviewed everything along the way. It's a different step. But there again, where has X ever been the same as anybody else? We think we can do this. And we have public health And we have a premier who helped us by putting in asymptomatic testing for our students returning from outside of the Atlantic bubble. All the pieces have come to place for that. The next few weeks, it's already started, students in self-isolation, regular testing for those who came from outside the bubble. Everything's going well. Testing's going well. The experience seems to be working for the students. It's tough. The ones in residence in self-isolation, the ones in town in self-isolation, this is not an easy piece. In my hat, I take my hat off to them. It's tough.
But Andy, I hear that you've got a huge team of volunteers who are supporting students.
And again, that's right. I mean, so you've got a community that has given us 220 volunteers plus to go out and try and support our young people in the community, right? This is not an easy thing, but they're picking up groceries. They're doing health checks. They're just being good neighbors. That's the piece that we're working on. Be a good neighbor. Ask how people are doing. Can we help you? Can we move it on? What we need, however, in the weeks ahead, is for people to take that personal responsibility around campus. Self-check. How are you feeling? That's number one. If you've got any of the pieces as you work through that you're not feeling good about, call the number, get some help. Ask the question. Don't take chances, because the whole community is relying on you to get this right. Not only for yourself, but for them as well. Wear a mask around campus, and that extends into the classroom. Wear a mask. We need that to happen. Wash your hands. Wash your hands regularly. It's the simple things. Social distance. I know that's difficult. I've been 17 before as well, 17 to 24. I've been there. Social distancing is a hard thing to do. Do it, because we all need you to do that. And if we follow these things together, if we're a little more restrained on how we interact with the community, we're going to get there. But make no mistake, it's about all of us doing this together. We have to bring in that civilian community to rely on each other. That's how we'll get through this. And if we get through the first few months, we'll be in great shape to see how we'll go on into the next year.
Well, Andy, I always think of StfX as being a place that really forms good citizens of the world, and you address that in your own words. But when you just said, to be good neighbors, really that's what, when someone graduates from StfX, they're pretty sure to be a good neighbor to anyone out in the world. They're going to contribute to their community. They're going to be kind and caring toward others, and they're going to contribute. Yeah.
That's right. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Better citizens for tomorrow. That's what we need. And it starts right now, unfortunately, for our freshmen. Day one, better citizenship.
Watch out.
Watch out.
I'm really so happy to meet you, and I'm excited for you. I think it's an amazing challenge. It's tough, but as you say, it's much more interesting to deal with the challenge of being at the helm of a ship like this than to be enjoying just a mediocre life. This is, you're sailing a ship. You're not sitting at the dock.
Yeah, no one wants to be boring, Nancy. And this is not boring in any way, shape, or form. And, the other thing is that no one person does these things alone. StfX has got a wonderful group of staff, faculty, who are pulling in all directions to make this work. And it's, I may have the privilege of sitting here tonight and introducing myself to the community, but it's everyone else who's working behind the scenes. There's an army of individuals behind there supporting students, right? And they should all be taken about tonight, because our plans are coming together. We're making strides. It's not easy. And, we are learning so much about ourselves along the way, but it's good work. As we said, this is the best work.
Well, wonderful. I think you strike me as a very good quarterback. But you're not the only quarterback on the Zoom tonight.
Is that right?
That's right. We've got another quarterback coming up. You know that we're also going to talk tonight about the new podcast, StfX, which I love the idea of. and I have had the pleasure of spending some time online with the 3 students I'm about to introduce. And I think they're going to make you very proud.
Oh, I'm sure. And they are fantastic young people. And I did have the privilege of seeing that Bailey was one of the first individuals I met in Antigonish. Whilst I was in self-isolation, he was actually painting a house further down the street and knocked on my window just to wave hello. So Bailey and I, he has the honor and I have the honor, first person in Antigonish I met.
Isn't that great? And he wasn't throwing a football because he's...
He wasn't. He had a paintbrush in his hand. And let me tell you, the man can paint.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Andy. I'll end off by calling you Dr. Hakin, but never again. Thank you so much for being here tonight and giving us your time and just being willing to talk about you as a human being. I think that means a lot to everyone.
Thank you, Nancy. The pleasure has been all mine. Pleasure to be with you all. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks so much. And now I'm going to bring in the 3 students that I was talking about. Oh, and they're together. Look at this.
Hello.
Wow. It's so exciting to see 3 people together in a, in a moment like this. Usually it's such isolated individual pictures. So Patty Ann, Bailey, and Amy, I'm going to get you guys to introduce yourselves a little bit. And I've been talking enough. I want to hear from you. These 3 are going to be hosting this brand new podcast. They're going to tell you about it. It's called X Connects, and you never know who's going to be profiled on it. Tell me about it, guys.
Nancy, just before we start, we just want to say, you talked a little bit about the spirit of generosity that comes along with being a graduate of X. We just wanted to say thank you so much for how generous you've been with both your time and your expertise, reaching out to do this interview with Dr. Hakin, which was amazing, and even just the guidance that you've given us. We think you've really set us up great to take over this podcast and put us in a great position to really be able to showcase our alumni with everybody. So thank you so much, Nancy.
Oh, you guys are ready. I've been paying attention and you are ready. I can't wait. So why don't you tell us a little bit about each of yourselves, and then we can talk about the podcast.
For sure. I'll begin. So my name is Patty Ann Tracy, and I'm a 4th-year student. I'm in business, and both Amy and I play on the varsity women's hockey team. So I'm actually from Antigonish, so I was born and raised here, and I'm the baby in a family of 5, and every single one of my family members went to StfX, both my parents and my siblings. And so actually this is my last year at X, so I'm finally going to be 5 out of 5 getting that X ring, which I actually tried on a couple weeks ago. So I'm very excited this year to get my X ring and graduate.
Fantastic. It's a pretty special, December 3rd is a pretty special occasion. No question.
Sure.
I'm Bailey, and I'm from Calgary. I'm going to my last year, and I'm studying accounting. And as you mentioned before, I play football for StfX, and that was kind of one of the biggest reasons that brought me to X. And I actually transferred from University of Calgary, and so this will be my 3rd year here at X. And I'm really looking forward to being a part of this project and just getting a chance to, I think really all of us, I would say we were just really trying to learn from our alumni. And I think that's kind of what drove us to reach out to alumni relations and try to get matched with the alumni. And so we're excited to just share our questions and our curiosity and have everyone alongside learning with us.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Yes, my name is Amy Graham. I'm in 4th year Bachelor of Science in Human Kinetics, getting my X ring as well with these 2 this year. So very excited. Haven't tried it on yet, but looking forward to that. And I'm on the women's hockey team. And the reason why I came to X, again, I wanted to pick a school not only for my academics or my athletics. I wanted to be involved in a community and immersed in a place where I knew I could give back and have an impact, and X just aligned with all the values and where I wanted to see my life for the next 4 years at university. So here I am.
I love that you're all university varsity athletes, and yet you and you're well on into your education, and yet you have the time that you're dedicating to this. I think it's brilliant. And I do think you're going to learn a lot. I love that you said that, Bailey. Okay, tell us about the podcast.
Absolutely. So initially, Bailey spoke to it a bit, but we wanted to find a way to not only connect between students during this time, especially during COVID, but also reach out to alumni and the broader community of X. And all three of us came together with the same vision. So we reached out to Alumni Affairs and they got on board pretty quickly, and here we are. And this was our first one, and then you were absolutely incredible. So big shoes to fill, but we are definitely really excited. Do you guys want to speak to anything else?
Yeah, I think just Nancy had mentioned, we kind of, even though we're kind of super busy with our sports and other things we have going on, I think we're definitely kind of fortunate. If you can't find any opportunity in this time, it's in doing things like this. So we're happy to have a little bit of extra time where normally we'd be more immersed in our training. And so that's given us the opportunity to do something like this. And so we all kind of started with separate visions, which all involved reaching out to alumni. And then it kind of came together and combined into this podcast project where we were able to kind of all work together and with kind of a similar vision.
Yes, and just to add on that, so during the COVID pandemic, when we were all in isolation, we were all connecting about different ways that we were reaching out to people, whether it's online and just hearing what other people are doing this time, like what they're picking up, any hobbies, that sort of thing. So we actually tuned into, there were different videos that were going out, especially in the sports league. So we would tune in and hear different interviews, and we were like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, how wicked would this be to speak with alumni at StfX to hear what they're doing during this time, whether they're doing research, talk about sports. So there's a lot of different areas, and we're actually going to speak to the next guest that we'll be welcoming in a few weeks. So Amy, do you want to start off with the guest that we'll be talking to?
For sure. So in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be interviewing Alan McIsaac, who is the Senior Vice President of Hockey Operations for the Chicago Blackhawks. So giving us a little insider scoop in the hockey world. Also, David Graham, who is the Executive Director of Brigadoon Village. So we're going to see how COVID affected a non-for-profit organization, which I think is going to be really, really cool.
And also down the line, we'll be looking at interviewing Gregor Chisholm, who is a Toronto Star columnist, and he was previously a Blue Jays reporter. So we'll be talking sports, baseball, and his time at X. And then we'll also be talking with a guest about the Cody Institute celebrating their 60 years.
We'll also be talking to Matt McPherson. So Matt McPherson is an NHL linesman. So we're going to speak to him about life inside the bubble, especially during this time with the NHL playoff run. And then another podcast, we'll look at talking to somebody about celebrating 50 years of varsity athletics, female. And then we also want to reach out to people that are tuning in, that if you have an idea or topic that you would like for us to discuss, or if you have a StfX alumni in mind that you think would be perfect to talk to, we're encouraging you to send us an email at alumni@stfx.ca. That's alumni@stfx.ca. So we would be more than happy to hear from you and reach out to these people. And the more people we can speak to, the merrier. So we're definitely excited about this X Connects podcast.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, you really have such a huge pool to fish in. Getting back to the fishing metaphor, you're actually fishing in a barrel. You've got lots in there. And I'm sure there will be a lot of alumni who step up and say, yeah, I'd love to have a conversation, because it is about giving back. And I'm going to test you guys and say, what, if anything, did I teach you about interviewing and hosting a podcast? Did you learn anything from me?
Yeah, I would say the two biggest things that you really hit home, one was curiosity, and just kind of bringing a genuine curiosity and serving the listeners. And then the other thing was just being present with your guests.
Another big thing I learned from you is doing your research about the person behind the scenes. So obviously you already showed some analogies of fishing and the herding of the buffaloes to Dr. Hakin. And again, these people that we're going to be talking to, some we're familiar with and we know, and others not so much. So again, with Bailey saying about the curiosity, it's just doing our research behind the scenes and showing that, listen, like we're very interested in hearing from you guys too, and just passionate to hear about what others are doing during this time.
I would say, Nancy, the statement you made about don't look at the camera, look through the camera. You did a little practice podcast with me, and originally at the start I had, my paper scrunched in my hand really tightly and trying to follow a script. And as soon as I settled in and said, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? I'm trying to serve others and share knowledge. And as soon as I became more authentic and just was in a state of flow and comfort, I was able to do that better. So really excited to put that into work when we do our first interviews.
Yeah, so you're definitely a great mentor for the three of us. So thank you.
If this was more about testing you than kudos for me, for the record. But I love that you said that, and you all were just so interested and engaged, which is why I kept saying, okay, well, if you want to do anything else, just call me or email me, because I'm learning from you and I'm so inspired by what you're doing. And when I do presentation coaching with people, speech coaching, and I always say, if you're focused on your performance, that's when you're going to be nervous and you're going to be uptight. And the real key is to focus on your contribution. What are you giving the audience? And I think you guys are going to give us a lot. I'm really excited, not only for your success that I know you're going to enjoy in terms of interviewing people, but I think you're all going to learn a lot from it. And I think your audience is going to learn a lot from you, because you're already teaching me. And you have everything you need to do this. So I'm inspired and excited to watch you fly.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Nancy.
And when does it launch?
Our next podcast is going to be launched, I believe, in a press release in the next week. So the dates will be coming out very, very soon. So stay tuned.
Okay, the one last thing I have to say, because he is a friend of mine, one or both or two of you had scholarships with Mark Wallace's foundation?
Yes, that was Amy and I.
Can you just tell me a little bit about that? Because Mark is a good friend of mine, and I think it's a great example to highlight someone who has been so connected to StfX and come back and really given back to the university and to the students in such an extraordinary way.
Absolutely. So Patty Ann and I spent 12 weeks of our summer with a Wallace Internship, and it allowed us, I'll explain the project, but it allowed us really to jump into something and have the time. He provided us with time to really pursue a passion and a vision we had, which you're not always given in a world where it's go, 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 and there's so much to do. So we were able to really put our vision to work, and we spent the 12 weeks developing sexual violence prevention workshops for coaches to take, to be educated on sexual violence prevention, and we use sport as the platform to do this. And so we've had really good conversations with coaches across Canada, and there hasn't been a program or a series of workshops that is strictly dedicated to this topic. And it's an emerging topic in sport as well as in the broader society. And so we decided to target it with our background in sport and try and make that a better place and a safer environment for kids all across Canada. So still a work in progress, but Mr. Wallace has given us an incredible 12 weeks he gave us the time to put our vision into place. So extremely grateful for that.
Well, I think all Zavarians should be proud of that work you're doing. And this podcast, you three are already changing the world. You haven't even gotten your X rings on your finger yet, and you're already changing the world. So you're going to be great ambassadors for the school, I know, but I certainly am going to be listening to your podcast and watching with interest. So thanks so much for joining us tonight, and rock on. Make me proud.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Nancy.
you. We appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
And you have my email, so anything you need, you know that you
Absolutely.
can give me a shout. Just whistle and I'll come running.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks guys so much.
Take care.
And Shanna's back, so I think that
I'm
means
back.
we're the hook now.
I just want to again say thank you so much, Nancy, for reaching out to us and asking if you can get involved. We really, really appreciate it. Special thanks to Dr. Hakin and Patty Ann, Amy, and Bailey. You guys are special students. I'm beyond excited that you guys approached us and asked how you could get involved to make a difference. So I'm really looking forward to continuing working with you guys on our X Connects project. And all those alumni out there, please feel free to send us names. Again, alumni@stfx.ca. Next week, we'll be sending out some more information about our upcoming guests and when we're going to launch. So again, I hope everybody has a great evening and hail and health.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I want to send big love out to all of those Zavarians, whether I know you or not. I hope you enjoyed tonight.
Thank you all.